All right, good morning, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to this early morning stream. Hopefully, this isn't too early for you. I am actually a very early riser. So, by the way, I am wearing my headphones for just a second because I'm still like super freaked out about that last time when the stream didn't work. So, I'm just checking my audio on my phone real quick here. And okay, it's good. So, let me go ahead and take off my headphones here now. All right. Um, so yeah, as I was saying, welcome to this early morning stream. I am a pretty early riser myself. I've got two little girls, a 3 and 4 year old, and they're generally up pretty early. Sorry, I just realized I forgot to close my office door. Close it real quick. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so they're still asleep. So fortunately, my office here is in the basement, whereas their bedrooms and stuff are on the second floor. So hopefully, I won't disturb them with my talking. So I got my coffee from Starbucks. I almost didn't make it back in time just because I forgot that the Starbucks by my house is closed until 6 a.m. on Sundays. So I had to go to the other one that's a little bit further away, but not super far away. Far enough that I was worried that I wasn't going to make it back in time though. Okay, so what was I gonna say? Okay, so anyway, today's stream, before we jump into it, so if you watched the last one, we talked about gathering data for our movie rating model. And you might have caught in there that a lot of the work that I did in there was like almost kind of pre-done. And the reason that I did that is because I'm kind of struggling to go back and forth on these streams. Is how much do you actually want to see like how the sausage is made, basically, in the sense of, so like software developers, machine learning engineers, folks like us, we struggle to get things right on the first time, and sometimes it takes a long time to debug things, and so that's where, like, I purposefully opted not to try to waste anybody's time by debugging things. But I've thought, maybe you want to see that whole like, how the sausage is made and see like the whole debugging process. And so to that end, today's stream is going to be covering a topic that is going to be basically you and me learning alongside each other together. And so, well, let me caveat that a little bit. The technology that we're actually going to be using, I have used before. It's just been a couple years since I've used it, and so I don't remember it super well. So that's where I'm a little more comfortable doing this one, like kind of fresh, just because like I do have some former experience with it, so maybe it won't be too bad. Okay, so by the way, I do have the chat open as per usual, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop any down below here. Okay, sip of my coffee. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. So this morning I have basically nothing up. I do have my Affinity graphic designer. So by the way, this is, I've shared this before, like how I do my work with graphic design. So in case you're not familiar, so I'm actually a relatively new developer. Even though I am a machine learning engineer now, like, and I work as one, I used to be like a business analyst pretty much. And it's kind of a long story, but anyway, I thought I wanted to be a graphic designer at one point, and I still do enjoy doing graphic design, but it's a very subjective field, and therefore, like, kind of thankless almost. Not thankless, but like it's hard to tell a client that they are wrong because you can't objectively prove that they're wrong. So like whenever I was starting to do some freelance work, I was doing this business of I'd create the icon that they wanted or the logo that they wanted, and then I would and because I would give them the suggestions on the things that I was thinking, and then they'd be like, I don't know about that. So I would design what they wanted to my best ability, and then I would design what I wanted. And so I'd do this thing of like show them, all right, well, here's what you wanted, and then they'd realize, okay, I'm not wild about this, and then I'd show them what I developed, and then they're like, oh, I love this. But the problem with that is that would be no problem if you could churn these things out really quick. But graphic design, it's not super hard, but even so, something like, so I created this by hand. This took me probably, I don't know, 25 minutes. And so like this is pretty simple. Now when you get into thinking about things of like that are much more complex, so like my own personal logo, I created my own personal logo here. This probably took me 4 hours. And these are pretty minimalistic icons. Excuse me. So yeah, it's just very time consuming, and that's why I ended up not pursuing it full time. But it served me very well, as far as like creating streams or graphics for my blogs or streams or whatever. So this software here, by the way, is Affinity Designer. Affinity Designer is very similar to Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator is more feature rich, but I would say uh, it is also more so for the rich. And what I mean by that is Adobe Illustrator is a part of Adobe Cloud, which costs I think like $50 a month. A month, a 1 month. You have to pay that every single month. Whereas, so like, what about somebody like me who only uses just the one suite? So the Adobe, I actually started off on Adobe Illustrator, and then but I just wanted to use like the one product. That's where Affinity Designer stepped in and is really nice. So this is the Mac variant. And they were also now Adobe has put out an Adobe Illustrator for iPad, but before they didn't have one, and so there is an Affinity Designer for iPad, which is equally great. And so even though it's not as feature rich, everything that I need to do sufficed with Affinity Designer, and it was a one-time payment on the Mac of $35, I think. And I think I even got it on sale for cheaper than that. And then like on the iPad, I think it's $20, and the iPad version is fantastic. So you did not come here for a graphic design lesson, but there you go. So that's how I kind of do my work. Okay, so anyway, let me go back and let's go ahead and refresh ourselves on where we were at from last time. So let me go ahead and open up Safari here, and we'll go ahead and open up my local Jupyter Notebook server. All right, so we are working in the movie ratings model, notebooks, and then doing the data gathering. So by the way, obviously we're doing work out of notebooks right now because it's a lot easier to do like discovery like work via Jupyter Notebooks. But as I've noted before, like whenever you actually want to productionalize these things into like, because I talked about doing like a full MLOps pipeline, all this logic needs extracted out into like its own Python file, and I will do that at some point. It's just for now it's easier to work out of a Jupyter Notebook. So is this on and running? I don't know if it's on and running or not. So let me go ahead and just do like a restart. So I think I mentioned last time that, these things kind of take a little bit to run. So that's another thing to consider with how I've set up my model here is it takes like a solid 5 minutes for me to gather my data. And that's for 100 movies. Now, let's say you wanted to create something like, let's say you were trying to create the same thing for like somebody like Roger Ebert, who in his lifetime reviewed probably hundreds of movies. If not, or thousands of movies, if not tens of thousands. Well, maybe tens of thousands is a little bit exaggerating, but anyway. So that would take a long time for this thing to run. But yeah, okay, let me go ahead and restart and run all. And so you'll see, so we covered, in the last time we covered the first two data sources, the the movie database, TMDB. This got us a lot of our information. And then we covered IMDb, which covered another little set of information. And then where we left off, and it was just because we ran out of time, was talking about something called OMDB. And so I didn't realize that all three of these are the MDB clients, the TMDB, IMDB, and OMDB. And so whenever we wrapped up the stream the other day, I was thinking that we would be able to get both the Rotten Tomatoes critic and audience scores from this OMDB client. And unfortunately, I found that you can only get the one. The one meaning that you can only get the Rotten Tomatoes critic score. You can't get the audience score. So that's what this stream is about, and that is, can we get that audience score? And so you might be wondering, well, why don't we just use the Rotten Tomatoes API? And so let me go ahead and show you why I'm not. So let me just do Rotten Tomatoes API. Okay, so you do see that they have a developer network. So it's loading up here. Okay, so you can see that you can request access via this proposal form. And this proposal form, I didn't even bother to actually submit it. So you can see you gotta have your name, company, location, position, website, everything, address, your whole reasoning for wanting to use this stuff. And, like I said, I already got the critic score. I just need the audience score. And so do I want to go through this whole hassle of most likely being rejected because they're going to laugh me off, basically? Do I want to go through this full process of trying to get access to the real-time API or their real legit Rotten Tomatoes API? And the answer is no. It's just too time consuming. And honestly, I do think I would get rejected anyway. Okay, so what we can do is something called screen scraping. So let's talk about, what is screen scraping at a conceptual level. So screen scraping is basically this idea of, whenever you look at a website, any website, Facebook, your favorite gaming site, like I like to check out IGN or Nintendo Life, you'll see all those articles are obviously being rendered in the code that displays upon your screen here. So the question is if I, as a human, can see that there's something on the screen here, and so by the way, one other quick thing you might have noticed on the streams is you might be wondering, why do I look off over this way so much? And that is because the webcam I'm looking at is right here, but my actual monitor is right over here, and then so I actually have two monitors. The main monitor's up here. I'm pointing at it, and then the secondary monitor's down here. So that's why I'm always looking over here. I need to figure out a better way. I'm sure that professional streamers have like some little special like little monitor just for like looking over here. But so that's why it's so hard to look at this camera, because my screen is actually over here, and it's yeah. So anyway, what was I talking about there? Lost my train of thought. Yeah, so screen scraping. So yeah, so back to this idea. So like if you can see it with your eyes, is there a way that we can extract it off the page? In most cases, the answer is yes. And in fact, there is a Python library that we're going to be using in order to specifically do this, called Beautiful Soup. Yeah, Beautiful Soup. I want to almost said BS4, which it is I think it's version BS4, and I think you install it as BS4. And so I've used Beautiful Soup before, but it's been a long time. Well, actually, let me go ahead and share my screen again and talk through like one of the other challenges that I wanted to keep in mind. All right, so I'm actually gonna diagram this out in real time here using this website here called Draw.io. So this is a really nice little diagramming tool. So this isn't as feature robust as something like Affinity Designer is, but if you want to knock out some quick features for your business purposes or creating an architecture diagram, this is great. And especially because no, I don't want to use GitLab. Access denied. Wait, what? I must have clicked something wrong. Create new diagram. No, I don't want it to go to GitLab. Change storage. Oh yeah, we want to just do device. Okay, so I'm just going to create a blank diagram here. But anyway, one of the main reasons that I really love Draw.io is because you off on the left here you have like different shapes that you can use. But not only can you use certain shapes, but if you look at this more shapes here, then you scroll down to like you can actually see like icons for AWS. So which is AWS 19? Yeah, I like to use 19 the most. Okay, so if I click apply here, then I can look and I can see all these different AWS icons that I can use as part of my diagrams, or I can even just search up in here. So if I just search SageMaker, for example, which is one that I use pretty frequently. This is an icon I use pretty frequently. Then I can drag over here and then resize it appropriately, add an icon, say SageMaker model. And then I could export this out as PNG or any other format that I want to. So this is really nice. The only downside to using Draw.io is that like whenever you want to do a save like this, so you can see that it'll save, because it's not referencing, like because it's in a browser and it's not referencing the local file like directly, it's basically doing a save as every time, and like so it won't save on top of your original file, just create a new like version file. So that's kind of annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about what we did before starting off. So the big concern that I had in the original part was, or that I've mentioned in the original stream, was I want to have consistency with our data. So consistency in the sense that when we draw from one source, like TMDB, we want to make sure that if we're getting Avengers Endgame, that whenever we go to IMDb, that we're getting Avengers Endgame as well there, the exact same way. We don't want something like Avengers Infinity War. I talk with my hands, I notice, and I need to do it backwards because I noticed just here on my stream down here that so TMDB to IMDb, that would make more sense to you as opposed to this way for me. Anyway, so we started off by passing in string text to search for TMDB. Okay, so that's what we did first. And so this is again why I like this little tool here, is because it also has like really nice arrow functionality. So you can see that if I just hold down on here, then I can add a little arrow like that, and then also you can, up in here, you can add like nice little colors to it if you'd like. I'll just keep it white just to keep things simple. So yeah, I really do like this little tool, and it's really nice and free. All right, so we passed in string text, and then we got the or used IMDb or used TMDB ID to extract TMDB movie details. And so part of the movie details included the IMDb ID. So far we've been able to keep like a consistency so far. So we've been able to do this, and then we're gonna go under here. So we use we extract the IMDb. We extract the IMDb ID from TMDB movie details. Okay, so far we're able to keep a consistent string, and then I'm actually gonna create two branching paths here now. So first things first is whenever we actually want to go for IMDb here, we use IMDb ID to search for IMDb movie results. Okay, so far we've been able to keep a consistent string. Now the one thing I didn't, or I think I started to mention, actually let me jump back into the notebook here. Uh-oh, what happened here? Oh, I forgot I was renaming things, and I probably forgot to change this appropriately. Movie, wait. So movie ID, movie title, the following movie has no IMDb rating movie title. Okay, so I think I just need to. I was redoing some of this last night, and I deleted something out, and I didn't realize why I deleted it out. Okay, so I think it's just row, and then I think it's movie title, and I hope this works. All right then, movie title, invalid syntax. Well, okay, well, no. For some reason, so I'm trying to use an F string in here, and for some reason I noticed this as well as, whenever you want to do like this row with like the actual thing, for some reason it just like error syntaxes out, and so the way to fix that is, you could just instantiate this as its own variable. So, extracting the movie title from the row, and then we'll just call this movie title equals row. Movie, it's actually movie name, I think. So let's call this movie name then, just to keep things consistent. And then down here we can change this to movie name, and I think it should run just fine now. Okay, so let's see. This will probably take a little bit because going through the IMDb API thing specifically is a lot longer, and I think it's because I mentioned that we're not using the official IMDb API, so I don't know if like they're also doing screen scraping behind the scenes, and if that's the case, then it might take them a little bit longer than what I was hoping for. So that'll take a little bit. So anyway, because I wanted to show. So let me see if I can show you without having run these things. Is that basically when we pass in, or whenever we want to search out for OMDB, I had to pass in my own API key, so I did have to sign up for a new API key. And I'll include links and instructions on how to do that on your own if you'd like. And then, but whenever we passed in whenever we instantiated the OMDB client, then we could pass in the IMDb ID and make use of that directly. So that's where I wanted to show, like, with this diagram is OMDB is not dependent on the search results of IMDb, as IMDb was dependent on the search results of TMDB. So let me show that here. So I'm going to copy another little cell here, and let's zoom out so you can see everything. All right, so this is going to go also into here as so. So we're going to use IMDb ID to search for OMDB results, DB results. So that's where we're basically at here. And so the question is whenever I want to do my screen scraping, is how do I ensure that whenever I do my screen scraping that it is consistent with what we've done so far? And the challenge with that is Rotten Tomatoes apparently does not have unique identifiers for their movies. I did some Googling last night, and yeah, so what I'm going to do instead is, like I said, so let me show another box here. So after we do the movie results, we can extract extract. Let me type this up. Extract Rotten Tomatoes critic score from Rotten Tomatoes critic score from the OMDB results. So what we can do, and this is the best thing we're going to be able to do, is basically use the string text of our movie to search for the actual website, and then actually compare to see that if the critic score on our screen scraping matches the audience score, and if it doesn't, then we won't use it. So that's gonna be our way to try to keep enforcing, is basically using the OMDB Rotten Tomatoes critic score result, comparing that to the screen scraping result to see if it matches. So let me show again down here. So I'm gonna call this scraping website for Rotten Tomato, let me just say scraping Rotten Tomatoes for both critic score and audience score, and then so that's kind of its own thing. And then I am going to add another square down here that is going to kind of like straddle these two, if you will. And that is, so this is going to feed into here, and this is also going to feed into here. And then I'm going to validate the audience score with, I'm going to validate the scraped critic score with the OMDB critic score. And if it matches appropriately, if match, then save audience score. Okay, so this is basically our whole flow of like how we, and I'm not going to save this diagram. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit. I don't know if this is going to be too difficult to see over the stream. Okay, so you can see basically this is how we are maintaining, like from start to finish, that everything is going to be matching. And if it doesn't match, this audience score at the end, then we are going to basically put a null there and toss it out, because we don't want to, start to create any sort of like confusion. Okay, so let me see if this is completed running now. Okay, it looks like it has completed running. So let me just show you really quick how OMDB works. So OMDB, very similar to how we worked with TMDB specifically, in that we had to instantiate our client here using the API key. And so I basically did the same thing whenever I registered for the API key. I put it in this keys YAML file so it won't get pushed up to something like GitHub later. So we iterate, or we go ahead and get these details, and you can see that on return it gives us all this information. So one thing it did include that I wasn't really expecting to use, but I thought it would be good to use anyway, is the Metacritic Metascore. So you can see it. I don't know why they put it in two places. So you can actually see there's like a nested dictionary of ratings right here, and then the Metascore itself. So I'm just peeling off the Metascore. And then, like, to actually get the Rotten Tomatoes score, I had to do a little bit of fancy footwork to in order to get that. And so that's what this code is here. In detail. So sorry, I was doing some testing last night, and so basically this is saying, if there are no ratings within this nested dictionary, just print out a little message noting that, and then in the actual code we'll maybe put a null or something. But if there is, then we look for the Rotten Tomatoes source, and then actually set this to be whatever it is. So this is, and then we actually print it out. So this is getting the Rotten Tomatoes critic score for The Matrix here, which is 88%, which sounds about accurate. Okay, so let me show you what I did here to actually create my little pipeline to get all of the stuff from OMDB, and that is iterating through here. And I actually, now that I think about it, I don't know that I finished this. I think I got tired last night, and I just kind of let it be. Okay, so you can see that so I did not, I was just testing to see out, because I've used this none before, and I wanted to make sure if none, then it was gonna save it properly. So I actually did not finish this. So we can finish this really quick. So if, or populating Rotten Tomatoes critic score appropriately. So basically we're passing in, as you can see at the top here, our original data frame that contains everything that we've done so far in like one collective place. And so I'm going to say row, if RT critic score. So, okay, let me show what it's doing here. What it's doing here basically is noting that, if there is a Rotten Tomatoes critic score, we're instantiating at the beginning of each loop, we are reinstantiating it as none. So if there is one, and let me demonstrate this down here real quick. So none, it will print false. If yes, it'll print true. So if there is a critic score, we want it to say row RT critic score. We'll just call it that equals the RT critic score. Else we are just going to populate it with a null. Row critic score RT critic score equals np.nan. Okay, so that should be good. And then okay, I mentioned the critic score. Populating the Metacritic Metascore appropriately. Okay, so this one is a little bit easier. Let's see. I'm gonna see if we can get by with not trying to handle Nan's null values. So I'm just gonna do row Metascore equals. So we are getting what? The details. So OMDB details Metascore. Okay, Metascore. All right, so let's see if this works or how long it takes to work. Oh, it did this baloney again. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about before. So, all right, we can do the same thing that we basically did above. So, all right, extracting movie name from the row. All right, so this is easy enough. Movie name equals row movie name, not with an underscore. All right, so row movie name, and then we can, and I don't know why it does this. Like, I don't know why the F strings can't handle this appropriately. Movie name. Okay, so let's see. All right, so it's iterating through everything right now. So far, and whenever I did this search originally with the matrix, it didn't seem to take too terribly long. So hopefully, I think I have 100 or so movies in here. Okay, so it's done. So let's see how well it worked or did not work. Let me zoom out and cut. I like to try to keep. I've tried to not work out of this particular notebook so much because this is my clean notebook, and so I don't like. I like to have like a dirty workspace and then like a clean workspace. So this is the clean workspace because it's got all like the nice markdown and everything and all the nice like formatted comments. So yeah, that's why I've been working out of like another notebook. Okay, so let's look at df all rows. What are you talking about? Oh, df all data. Duh. Okay, df all data. Sorry about that. All right, so we should see at the very end here, which I don't. Not great. What happened here? Info. Boom. Okay, so it did not populate these appropriately. And what did I do wrong? What did I do last time? Okay, so you get to see. So this is a little bit of that what I was talking about earlier, where you get to see the making of behind the scenes with these things. And okay, so df all data log index. Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot about that. I did, yeah. So that's why. All right, so you can't set these things directly. I forgot about this. So what I had to do was basically say I want this thing here. Let me go ahead and paste it down here. So basically it's saying with df all data, which is our master data frame here that we're trying to look at, I want to pass in the index, I want to pass in the row it needs to be, and then we can call it the RT critic score, like so. And then same thing here. So df all data. So the good news is it seemed that it didn't run that long, which is nice. So index. So again, whenever we do our iteration through the rows, whenever you do the iter rows like this, it passes back the index and then the actual row. So that's where this index is coming from. RT critic score. And you can tell, so I don't know if you can tell, but my voice is already starting to give out a little bit. And I don't know if it's just like this time of year or whatever with like the fields being plowed, but yeah, my throat just tends to give out a little bit. So apologies if I start to get a little bit raspy. All right, so all data index dot loc index comma metascore. Okay, so this should be better. All right, so let's see if this runs better. All right, so in a minute we should see everything populate here. So okay, so now we do see that there is a Metascore. Okay, so this is interesting. That apparently not all these movies had one of these things, but apparently they all did have a Metascore. So that's kind of interesting. And so that is one of those things where we're not going to talk about feature engineering, but we're going to have to figure out with some of these things is how do we want to handle the nulls. Why is there? Oh. I was wondering why is there like one of these that doesn't not have a movie? Because I might recall in the last one that Kaylin rated this movie called didn't rate this movie called Air Force One, even though like they watched it live, and I keep asking for that score. So that's why there's a null value here, is because Air Force One doesn't have a rating. That's funny. Okay, so I should be able to do a df all data.head. Okay, and okay, so you can see everything in here, and now you can see, or let me move my face out of the way, I apologize for that. Now you can see that we do have the Metascore ratings and the Rotten Tomato critic scores, and you can see that actually they're in percentages right now, which is something I'll have to adjust with feature engineering later, but no big deal. Okay, so let me go ahead. I like to keep consistency with these things, so let's go ahead and we'll do once again a save at this point. So just viewing the... All right, and I like to put comments in here, or I'm going to cut this out first. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to clean this up just to because this is my pretty copy of the notebook. So showing all the data with the new OMDB data. Okay, so we can do that. And then we're going to do another checkpoint save. Saving DFL data as a checkpoint spot. Okay, so this is effectively the end of like the gathering of the data as like so I mentioned that I was starting to do like a blog post about this, so this is where I will cut this blog post off, and then I will do another blog post on the actual content that you came for today, and that was how do we do some like actual screen scraping. In fact, and so I don't want to mess with this notebook anymore, just because, or at least for now, because this is my pretty notebook. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out and create okay, so in case you're wondering what Spooky is, though this is kind of funny, I like to do Scary Movie Saturdays in the month of October, so Kaylin actually recommended the movie The Empty Man, and so I watched that last night, and that was a super weird movie, but I was actually pretty entertained by it, and I actually don't care for horror movies, so I decided to use my spreadsheet here to find out like what other movies that Kaylin has rated positively, and if they had like the thriller or the horror title. So I wrote a bit of code here to actually just extract this all out as its own pandas data frame, and then you can see that at the very end here, basically this is what we came up with, and then I shared this back with the Facebook group just in case they are interested in watching one of Kaylin's recommendations of a scary movie here in the month of October. So that's what Spooky is. So actually I can go ahead and shut down Spooky. Let's go ahead and create a new one. We're going to call this Screen Scrape, and I'm going to just call it Screen Scrape Test. Okay, so like I said, so this is going to be a bit of a challenge for two reasons. Number one is just trying to figure out how to like extract the data from with Beautiful Soup, but the bigger challenge is how do I know which URL that I need to pass in from Rotten Tomatoes to actually like start that screen scrape. So that is going to be a twofold challenge. So let's go ahead and load in our data set. So we're going to do an import pandas as PD. Let me go ahead and make this bigger for y'all so you all can see. So we're going to import pandas as PD. We're going to loading up the data frame with OMDB data. OMDB data. Oh my gosh. I think I mentioned this the last stream. I don't know how often, like, I've flip-flopped these letters DB with BD. I don't know why. All right, so df equals PD dot read CSV. All right, so up and then data. And I think it's under raw. And I think it's df all data dot CSV. And then header. Well, let me see if that worked. Okay, yeah, I thought I'd spelled that wrong. All right, let me find out where I put that data. So it is data raw all data.csv. Okay, there we go. Then that would make more sense. All data.csv. Okay, and let me check to make sure this loaded up okay. Okay, and the reason I just did this here is because I don't want to have to mess with the other thing. Okay, so you can see that we have the critic score over there, and that we do have the IMDb score, or the IMDb thing here. Well, actually, we're not going to use the IMDb here, or ID here. I don't know why I said that. Did I say that? No, well, so actually, let me go ahead and add another box here. Searching Rotten Tomatoes with a string movie text. So this is where I was saying string movie text. So we actually need to use the same text that we created here, or that we used for the very first path, basically down here. So you can see, like, using string text both on TMDB and then Rotten Tomatoes, but validating the Rotten Tomatoes one with basically the downstream results that originated from OMDB. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't know if I'm going to use this diagram for anything, but, you know, just wanted to show, like, you know, if you want to use Draw.io, it's really nice. It's got this really nice grid and kind of like a snapping to kind of functionality, so you can see that, like, it wants to snap when I move that. It's a really nice little tool. Okay, so back to our data, our screen scrape test. So first things first, I think we do need to install Beautiful Soup. So let me just do beautiful, search for Beautiful Soup, beautiful soup. Okay, and then of course we're going to do our practice first with the matrix, as we have been doing so far. So first things first, so I knew that you have to do, or do we have to do a pip install Beautiful Soup? So let me do it, just search it on PyPy here. All right, Beautiful Soup. I can't remember, it's just install Beautiful Soup or BS4 or what it is. Okay, so Beautiful Soup, this doesn't seem right. Okay, this one probably is correct. Let me check. So you can always check. There are multiple ways to check to see if you're doing the right thing. So I always like to just go to PyPy and then just do like a search here. And I think this is the same thing. Installing Beautiful Soup. All right, so you can do an apt-get install or a pip install. Okay, so this is the correct thing here. So I'm going to do a pip install. So let me go ahead and open up my terminal. All right, so I'm going to do pip 3 install Beautiful Soup 4. Uh-oh, Beautiful Soup 4. Okay, so that is going to Beautiful Soup 4. Okay, so while it is doing that, oh, already satisfied, so apparently I already did download it before. Okay, so all right, so what? All right, before we jump into it, let's find the actual page that we want to scrape for the matrix. So I'm just going to do a regular Google search, Rotten Tomatoes, the matrix. Okay, so and let's look at this page and let's see if it'll actually give me what I want to see. All right, so this is the Rotten Tomatoes page for the matrix specifically. So you can see down here, you got a we already noted this from OMDB that it did get an 88% with the critics. It got an 85% with the audience. But the reason there actually is no wide disparity here. The reason I want to get the audience score is because there are a lot of more modern movies where the audience score deviates from the critic score, and there are multiple reasons for that. So like, I'm trying to, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to avoid politics here. But basically, like the big reason a lot of people these days don't trust like the critic score as much is because if there is like a political leaning that the movie kind of like leans toward, then the critics tend to rate it higher. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not trying to say like that these movies are bad movies or anything, but then like when you look at the audience score would there's a much wider disparity, and so with those movies in particular, a lot of people actually are starting to distrust the score, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get into the politics of it all, but just note that in fact, when Kalen will even mention that whenever he does some of his reviews, is look at the audience score or the critic score and say the critic score, it might be unfairly inflated, whereas the audience score might be a little more reflective of reality. And take that for what it is. That's not my personal opinion. It just is what it is. Okay, so anyway, so I want. Oh, I didn't realize. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted here. I've been wanting to see Free Guy because I really it's a video game movie, of course, and I really like Ryan Reynolds. I didn't realize. I expected that movie to do really bad, but 80%, that's pretty good for a comedy movie. I might actually watch that now. Okay, so anyway, let's look at the URL here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this down just so we can see it a little bit easier within our Jupyter Notebook. All right, so, I'm going to call this matrix URL. Matrix URL equals, well, let's put it in a string. Okay, so one thing, so this is where I'm a little bit nervous of, like, how do we necessarily deal with this? So you can see that the URL, and I did a little bit of pre-research on this. It appears that the way that Rotten Tomatoes works is that you have the base URL when you want to. So when you want to search for a movie, you have the base URL RottenTomatoes.com/m. I'm assuming M stands for movies, and this is where I'm getting concerned. It's this note is. Or in order to get to the Matrix here, it is just Matrix. It is not the Matrix. And so now I'm curious, like if I were to search for Matrix Reloaded, excuse me, what the URL on that would be. So Matrix Reloaded. So I guess the question is like, how do I make sure that whenever I want to get like to one of these things, that it is giving me what I actually want it to do? And so we might have to do some extra work around that. And so. In fact, that may even go beyond the scope of this stream. That may be something. It'll be something that I'll definitely handle as part of the blog post. And so I might just focus on just like how do we get screen scraping working in general, because you can see again running the same issue of like Matrix Reloaded is not the Matrix Reloaded, which is the actual formal title of the movie. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way around that. So anyway, let's just test with the matrix out right now because we only care to get the matrix data specifically. So the matrix, so you can see here, okay, we want to get the audience score, and so we're gonna try to use Beautiful Soup in order to be able to do that. Okay, so so the matrix URL, so this is our matrix URL. We need to import Beautiful Soup, and I think it's from BS4 import Beautiful Soup 4. In fact, so I'm looking at the official documentation here. I actually don't like the official documentation for Beautiful Soup here now that I'm recalling this, just because it's so like some of these like tutorials or like documentations for software are really good, and some of them are just like written really what's the word, like very technically, like very like robot like, and I'll be honest, this is going to sound really weird. I really love reading. I'm a terrible reader. And so I'm not very like, if it's all just like big bodies of text like this doesn't help me out so much. So I'm just going to do a different search for called Beautiful Soup tutorial. And so again, showing you how the sausage is made. This is how most software developers work. Or they'll just try to jump in with both feet. I don't like to jump in with both feet and just like do random things. I either do search for the actual documentation, and if for some reason the actual documentation doesn't suffice, which in my case is just like it doesn't look great, then I do it like something like a Beautiful Search tutorial or a Beautiful Soup tutorial search via Google. And then you have like usually blog posts like this that will show a little bit more information. Then I'll try to scroll down to like, oh, this is a great point. I didn't even think about this, and I did think about this last night, and I wanted to bring it up today. Is web scraping legal? And so this is for our cases, I think it's fine. Anybody can go out to Rotten Tomatoes, Google, and look at the audience score, and that is the only thing I want to extract off this page. I really don't care to extract anything else off the page. Although I will say, I guess we do need to extract the critic score just to do that that validation comparison. But so it brings up this question of is there legal rules around like web scraping for your company. And so for our model, it's not a big deal. But most companies, especially big companies, this is going to be a big question of like if you want to do it. So if you and so pulling back the curtain, even my company that I work for, they are very leery about people screen scraping. So if you don't know whether your company or not allows screen scraping, I would recommend reaching out to your company's legal department or even your HR department, someplace that's going to be able to provide you for an answer on that before you start to go down this path, because it may be that your company would actually prefer you to not do that screen scraping. So I'm glad we actually came across this. So, okay, so what Beautiful Soup 4 is basically doing is like what this tutorial is showing is that it basically takes the HTML of the page and then like looks at all the HTML tags. So I don't know if I'm gonna assume you all know a little bit of HTML. I personally am not like an HTML developer, but I know enough to make me like dangerous, or at least understand like what these concepts are doing. But basically, Beautiful Soup 4 is basically parsing through the HTML and like being able to execute things based on tags or whatnot, and then we can use this to find like information about things. So that's what this whole thing is talking about. Okay, so, and then it's talking about the request library here. So if you're not familiar with like what the request library does, I'm not sure if that's a default Python library or not, but I think it is. But basically what the request library acts like is basically like a Python's version of curl. So that's what this is doing here, is it's getting like the actual information from the page. This is a really long tutorial. Okay, so this is what I wanted to start to see, and I'm going to actually see if we could do a side-by-side here. So I'm going to move this tab to a new window, move tab to a new window, and then I'm going to put this up and over on here as such, and then we have a nice little side-by-side here, and then hopefully this is fine for you. Okay, so this is again showing you what I actually do as a machine learning engineer that doesn't know or is trying to learn a new technology for the first time. Is I will usually have my code up on the right here, and then the actual like tutorial of something on the left here. All right, so it looks like the first thing we need to do is import from BS4. I knew it was from BS4. Import Beautiful Soup, Beautiful Soup, Beautiful Soup. Oh, okay. I did not realize that we needed to actually use okay, so that's why it was telling us that we needed to do the request library. So again, it's been a couple of years since I've done this, and that's where I have kind of forgotten how to do some of these things. All right, so we need to import these libraries, and so again, this is kind of messy, like where I would actually go back and clean this up later. Again, let me move my face out of the way for y'all. Okay. Again, I'm monitoring the chat if anybody has any questions for anything. Okay, so we have imported that. So we need to, it looks like we need to actually get the page content from request. So request.get, we're going to pass in the matrix URL, URL. And then, so we should be able to do a page.status code and it should be a 200 if it worked fine. All right, and it did. And then looking down here even further, so page.content. All right, and it should show everything about. Okay, let me actually make this screen over here a little bit bigger. Excuse me. All right, so you can see this is the full HTML of this matrix page that we were looking at before. Everything is in here, so you can see there's a lot of information in here. Obviously, it's kind of formatted in such a way that is not very like easy to look at, and so the big question is how do we look for the actual critic score? And I was just seeing if I could, scrolling through here, if I could find it myself, but I apparently cannot. So this is where we are going to use Beautiful Soup 4 to help us parse through this information. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to say soup equals Beautiful Soup, page.content. And then we're going to call the HTML parser. Okay, all right. So there, oh no, couldn't build a tree with the features you parse. Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, so soup. All right, so it's suggesting to us we do a print of the soup.prettify. And I think what this is gonna do is basically take this big old blob here that we're looking at and then make it look or format it in such a way that it's easier to read. Okay, so that's exactly what I did. So you can see like this is if you were to actually write this code by hand in something like a what do you call it? Something like a, oh my gosh, I'm blanking this morning. It's early. We got to take a sip of our coffee, folks. Something like a, gosh, what do you call it? I use IntelliJ. What are those things called? Code editors. I don't know why I blanked on code editors. Okay, so you can see in here, it's a little bit easier to read through now, but I still don't know exactly which of these tags I need, and so that's where we might have to do some further Googling. So actually, I did read online there, and we're learning this from scratch. But whenever I was doing some like preliminary like Stack Overflow searches, people have already figured out how to scrape Rotten Tomatoes, obviously. So I could have just looked at one of those and copied their homework basically. But I thought this was a good tutorial to show it like how we do screen scraping with Beautiful Soup 4 from scratch. Okay, so you can see. I'm curious what this list soup.children is going to do, and it may just show. Okay, well, I don't see that it really did anything different, did it? Okay, so it's showing, yeah, not a whole lot. All right, so I want to find the actual tag, like, because I don't know. This page is obviously really busy. It's got a lot of things going on. So you got like, this over here on the left with the different tabs. And so like there's a lot going on this page, which is why the HTML is so long to parse through. So like I didn't want to do this, but I also don't want to waste your time either. In that I am actually just going to Google to find out like how we actually do the screen scraping with Rotten Tomatoes. I hate these pages that do this. Ugh. Okay. All right. Anyway, so Rotten Tomatoes screen scrape. No, I'll just do Rotten Tomatoes Beautiful Soup. Beautiful Soup. All right. And I'm sure that somebody's gotten through this. All right. So it looks like somebody even created a package that does this for us. And I'm not going to use this package. Instead, I'm just going to look to see what this person did. Okay. So looks like they were having some of the same struggles. So, okay. So they just did a soup.find. Find div, and they were looking for tomato info. Oh, wow. So I'm glad I looked this up. So it looks like it might be hidden behind this here. So let me go back to my notebook on this side. Let me make this about halfway again. All right. So this is where you can do a soup.find div. Okay, so there's only one div. And then let's see. So it looks like you got to pass in some sort of class information. So class underscore equals, and it looks like this is a couple years old, so this may be different, but we'll see. We'll see how this works. Soup.find. It didn't seem to give us anything back. We'll poop. Okay, so let's try something else. Rotten Tomatoes, screen screen Beautiful Soup critic score. Okay. Half the battle of knowing what to do with Google is knowing how the things to search for. So this is a Medium article that looks like somebody created. This is why I really like Medium. So by the way, a couple sources that people generally draw from whenever they're trying to debug things. Number one is probably Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is probably the best for like snippets of like very specific things that you're trying to figure out. Like let's say you have an error code and you're wondering like why is this error code popping up, and then most likely Stack Overflow is going to be your best bet. But as far as like longer form like tutorials, very much like the ones I write for other blog posts, Medium is probably the best here. And so then Medium, and then also more specifically oh my gosh, why am I blank? It's early, folks. Toward Data Science. So Toward Data Science usually has all those quality articles. And I'm not just saying that because I publish out there, but it really is like the top data science place in the world. Okay, so they are, all right, so what is this person doing? So this person is looking at the soup.split. So getting critic reviews. So so div class, the review. Well, I'm just curious. So if I can do a soup.find, dot find critic. I highly doubt this is going to work, but I'm just very curious. Okay, I didn't think it would. Okay, so for review in review soup. Okay, so where are they getting review soup? So review soup, soup.split equals, so soup.split. And I don't know what this is doing, but we'll see like if I can figure this out and explain it as we kind of go along here. So review table. Why is there like oh, those aren't double quotes. This is confusing. Equals review table, and then well, let me just see. Okay, so and then 1. Yeah, I didn't think that was gonna work. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly how to get this working properly, or where exactly that we need to get our information from. So they're looking at make soup page plus reviews, print soup, get number of pages, if pages is none. So, and I'm trying to do this really quick here because I don't want you to all have to not really understand or waste your time by watching me doing some debugging here. So these are, I just want to see, can I do a page inspection? Well, oh, that's a smart thing to do. I don't know why I didn't even think about that before. All right, so I don't know if I can do this in Safari, but we'll see if I can do it in Safari here. Well, actually, let's go ahead and do it in Chrome, because Chrome actually has better developer tools. So like I said, I am, or not like I've said, but I am not a web developer, so therefore I'm not overly familiar with some of these things, but I know enough. So, all right, I'm opening up Chrome. Oh, Chrome is open, except I just have it open down here because I'm doing the stream here. All right, so I'm going to do a new window up here. I'm going to make this big. All right, so I'm going to pop in the matrix. Okay, so the one nice thing about Chrome, it has a really nice developer tools. I don't even know if I've enabled the developer tools on here yet. Okay, so I don't want to enable okay. Sorry, I forgot that I have ads enabled. Continue to site. Oh my gosh, this is going to be annoying. Okay, but the nice thing about this is, so you can see that this is the HTML off on the right here. And I apologize, my head's kind of blocking that a little bit. But if I mouse over something like this, or if I like right click it, I should be able to do like an inspect on this, and then it should find, okay, so that is the audience score right here. So it is under, so we just keep going up, and it is part of this main column, div class ID, and okay, so yeah, it looks like this is what I need. So it's this class here called this. Okay, so I need this class. The ID is main column. So div ID is main column. So how do I do a search just based off of div ID? So let's see if I can figure this out. Okay. All right, so soup.find. I'm going to do... Oh, no, I didn't want all of that. All right, sorry about that. I just wanted this thing here. All right, so how do I just get this piece here? All right, so, or maybe I'm just gonna do, all right, so call mob, call center right. All right, so call mob, call center right, call mob, call center right. I don't know if I did this correctly. All right, call center right, call full XS, call full XS. All right, and then mop main column, mop main column. All right, so that is the class. So class underscore equals, and I don't know if you need to pass on something else. Oh, okay. All right, we're getting somewhere, folks. All right, so you can see that the find did work, and it looks like it got everything underneath here. So how do I go further? Now that is the question. All right, so I'm going to, well, let me go back to our main site. Oh, I forgot about this interstitial, or this little pop-up, or whatever you want to call it. All right, let me see if I can just do a refresh to get it to go away. Oh, go away, please. I just want to look at the tutorial. Okay, so yeah, maybe I'm just gonna have to, well, how do I just get this to go away? All right. Okay, zooming out apparently did something, but that's going to be really tiny for you all, and I doubt you're all going to be able to see this since I got my nice big monitor in front of me. All right, so we did a search for the class there. All right, so how do I do a further search? All right, so search, or let me just come back to here. Maybe this Medium article is going to give me what I want. All right, so this person, all right, so they're doing a split on review table. Let's actually go back to inspect to see if I can get something that's even narrower than this. All right, so class equals score type, audience score. Where is the actual score itself, though? Okay, so it's under here, so class is percentage. So let me just do a search on class percentage, and I don't want to lose this, so I'm actually going to do a different one. Soup dot find class equals percentage. Didn't return anything. Great. Okay, so I wonder what data QA is. Can I do a search on data QA? What is data QA? Okay, so this is the all right. So div class audience container. Oh, here's a scores container. I wonder if scores container is going to help. Scores container. Okay, well that didn't work. So I wonder if I put a div in the beginning, if that'll help. Div. All right. Dang it. Okay. All right. So this is part of the. Okay, I'm thinking I might not do this for future streams, and this idea of trying to figure this out on the fly, because now you get to see this is the life of a developer, is just working through like these issues of trying to figure out like how to do things and learn things on the fly. And this is where, like, if you ever see any of those memes where like the developer is just like wants to bang their head against the keyboard or something, like this is I'm not quite to bang my head against the keyboard part yet, but I'm getting there. All right, so beautiful soup search by what do I want to search by? Nested. Well, what do we call this? All right, so let me come back to here. Search by what is data QA? I don't know. Data QA? I don't know. We're just gonna try how to find a specific data value from HTML tag in BS4. All right, so accept all cookies. Okay, so BS4 define attributes is okay, so this might be helpful. So bs4.find. So all right, so I'm gonna do an attrs equals. All right, so the class is going to be what do we call that class? I'm already forgetting. It was the containers, scores container. Scores container. Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. Okay. And it gave me nothing. Oh, gotta love this stuff, folks. All right, or to be more concise, you can use the CSS selector. And to get the text, I'd use the get text instead of using contents. Fair enough. All right, so he's parsing through this information. So I want to find the class.contents. Okay. So another thing, couple things to keep in mind with Stack Overflow. I always try to pick something that's more recent. So this one's 3 years old, and then I also try to pick something like that has answers that are like more than one answer, or like something that's upvoted. This Stack Overflow post didn't have much to it. So let's try something else. Guide to parsing in Stack Overflow, a search. All right, so I am just trying to get down and look for find all. Okay, so I wonder if we did a find all, and let's just do class equals. Oh my gosh, why do I keep forgetting the name of this simple name? All right, so it's scores container. Scores container. Also, I don't know if anybody actually is watching right now, but do you all like when I try to keep talking and not have dead air? So like I actually don't watch like game streamers, so I don't know how they work. I don't know if they're talking the whole time or if they allow a little bit of dead air while they're doing stuff. And that's part of the reason I'm slowed down a little bit, is because I am not very good at typing and talking at the same time, or thinking and talking at the same time. Like I would be going a lot faster right now if I wasn't talking. So But I'm going to keep talking just in case. So I'm going to find all. So it is a div container, right? So this was a div class. Oh, okay. So, oh, they even have their own scoreboard. Oh, wait. Now I'm curious. Okay, so they're calling this the scoreboard. That is part of this div ID main column. I wonder what this scoreboard tag is. Now I'm curious if I can just do a search on scoreboard. Find scoreboard. Oh, we're getting somewhere, folks. We are getting somewhere. Okay, so this is showing the actual audience. Oh, wow, this is okay. All right, we're finally getting somewhere, folks. Okay, so we did a. So I'm gonna just call this scoreboard board, and we'll clean this up later, of course. Scoreboard equals. All right, so scoreboard. All right, so how do I extract something specifically out of here? I want to get the audience score. So extract. I want to extract the audience score. Well, both the tomato meter score and the audience score. All right, so audience dot audience score, maybe audience score. We'll try that. Oh, might help if I type it right. Okay, so that didn't work. I wonder if I can just do an audience score like this. Audience score. All right. Ooh, all right, we're really getting somewhere now, folks. All right, so let's go ahead and extract this out. All right, so we are, all right, so what we did was just like so there's the audience score. So let's see if we can get the scoreboard for the tomato meter score. So tomato meter score. All right, folks. So some great news. We just figured out how to extract what we need. This is great. All right, so one thing I want to mention before going forward, the one downside to using screen scraping is, we're obviously making use of like these special like tags that Rotten Tomatoes has developed for their website. There is nothing stopping them from changing their website tomorrow and where they're not using this, and therefore our screen scraping breaks. So that is, and so some people have probably figured out a fancy way of how to do this. Fancy in the sense that, like, they probably figured out, if Rotten Tomatoes changes their website, then we have a way to account for that appropriately. But I'm not going to worry about that too terribly much. So, just know, if you, Beautiful Soup is really great, for parsing through all this information. And if you want to look it up more, I would suggest watching an actual tutorial, not just me kind of just messing around here. But yeah, so this is going to suffice for what we need. So I'm going to go ahead and close out these other windows now, but I'll go ahead and keep the other one open just to show you. Okay, so let me zoom out, and actually let's go ahead and like start to actually formally clean this up. So I am going to put this up here for some reason. Okay, so this is kind of just like a weird picky part of me, and this doesn't matter at all. I like to put, whenever I do my imports, I like to do, if it's just like I'm importing the whole library, those go first. If I'm alias something like this, those go next, and then if I'm doing like this more specific import, those go last. I don't know why. That's just my personal preference. So for example, if I wanted to do an import on OS, which is a library I use pretty frequently, then I'd add it at the top. But if I wanted to, yeah, I'm just gonna call this importing the required libraries. Okay, so then loading up the data frame with OMDB data. So, and then I'm going to call this viewing the first few rows of all the collected movie data. So that's just when I'm doing the dot head. And then I'm setting the matrix URL, setting the matrix URL for Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, so now that I've basically imported this up from up here, getting the page contents. All right, so getting the page contents from Rotten Tomatoes' page for the matrix. The matrix. All right, so in fact, I'm even gonna do a. Well, no, I'm not. No, yeah, I am going to. I'm gonna see if I can just skip this to be like dot content, page content, and let's see if this works. Page content. All right, so I'm gonna have to do. Okay, so this appears correct. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. I'm gonna cut this. We don't really need the prettify. That was just like a helper kind of tool. I'm gonna call this page content. I'm gonna put parsing through page HTML content with beautiful. Oh my gosh, beautiful soup. Okay, I don't need this list cell anymore. I don't need these couple other cells anymore. I don't need this one. Okay. All right, getting the scoreboard information. Getting the Rotten Tomatoes scoreboard information from beautiful soup. Okay, so this should be the same thing. All right, and then we can extracting audience score from beautiful soup. All right, so I'm going to call this RT audience score. RT audience score equals that. Okay, and then extracting. Okay, well, I didn't want to do that yet. All right, so extracting the critic score from. Let me make this bigger if you will. Sorry about that. Extracting the critic score from beautiful soup. Okay. Beautiful soup. Okay. And I'm going to call this RT critic, or scraped. I'm going to call this scraped critic score. And the reason I'm calling it scraped critic score is, as you can recall, whenever I'm going to put this as like part of my pipeline to actually get all the data for each of the movies, I'm going to do that validation check of the scrape score versus the OMDB score. And that is it. So one thing I like to do, so you can see like every time you like run one of these cells, then you can see like it steps through and like it'll tell you, okay, this is the 43rd time it's been run. One thing I like to do is I like to go ahead and like restart the kernel and then run it all again, just to make sure that like whenever I run all my code that it like it's good to go, like after it's in its cleaned up form. And so I should have printed these out. What am I thinking? RT audience score, and then of course down here RT scraped critic score. So let me go ahead and run these last two cells again. Okay, that is it. That is exactly what we needed to do. All right, so the next challenge is going to be, so like I said, we were able to easily get the URL for the matrix here just by Googling that. But I obviously want to use like the movie name to somehow get that information. And we are already over an hour into this, and I really just wanted to do this stream just to cover like the screen scraping piece. So the screen scraping piece is more or less done. It's just like now I need to figure out how to actually use the movie names to parse through and get like the information from the Rotten Tomatoes appropriately, and that is probably going to take me a little while. But the purpose of this stream is more or less done. Plus, my daughters are probably awake, so I'm going to go check on them. So we're actually going to call this stream done. Let me go back to here. So I hope you all enjoy this. I hope you all enjoyed like watching like what it actually is to be like a software developer and like Googling through some of these new things and trying to figure out and debug some of these errors and whatnot. I just don't, I wouldn't mind watching you all like or watch my struggles trying to actually parse through all these other information. It's just that it's going to take me a while and I need a little break anyway. So yeah, I do hope today to actually have the official like gathering data blog post up, and I actually am going to create a separate blog post just for like the screen scraping piece. And so the screen scraping, the only thing I want is the audience score. And like I said, the only reason I want that audience score is because apparently there is this disparity these days between a critic score and the audience score. And so I didn't know if the audience score in particular would be like more of a predictive variable than like the critic score for the model that we're building. So yeah, hopefully you'll see that blog post come up later today, and then the scraping blog post will probably come up sometime later this next week. But once we get the tomato meter audience score, then we basically have all the data that we need, and we can start doing some feature engineering. And so we may or may not do that in the next stream. We may jump back to the Titanic project, and we'll just see. But yeah, for now, we're going to call it a day. Hope you all enjoy this stream. Thank you all for joining me on this early time. Of course, if you weren't able to join me at this early time, this video will always be available for, replay whenever you want. If you like this early time, let me know. Maybe we'll do more early streams. If it doesn't work out for you, also let me know, because maybe we'll go back to some more afternoon or later evening kind of streams. So, all right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up today there. Hope you all